Welcome to the Reflexio podcast, unhurried conversations with men and women from the East, West, and Global South who are living out the gospel in a variety of kingdom contexts around the world.
Join us as we explore the world of missions and marketplace service thoughtfully and biblically through these often hidden stories of God at work.
Hello, Sabine. Thank you for joining us today for the first Reflexio podcast of this series. And we're so thankful that you could be here with us.
It's a pleasure for me.
I wondered if we could just start by getting to know you a little bit. At least, would you be willing just to share with us a little bit of where you are from and how God called you into cross-cultural ministry? Just a little bit of your life in the last 20 years as you've served Him.
Okay. Well, I'm German. I grew up in Germany, but I have been living the last, let us say, 35, 40 years out of Germany. I am disabled from my early childhood, sitting in a wheelchair. And for me, it was always a question, what is the sense of my life being limited? And one time I was still young, I was 17. We read in the youth group, we read the passage of John 9, the verses 1 to 3. And exactly this question is coming up. And Jesus answers the disciples and says, this man is disabled or blind, that the works of God might be displayed in him. And this is what led me to becoming a Christian. And then early in my Christian life, I went to a student fellowship where there were a lot of missionaries coming and talking about their service overseas. So I early had the desire also to serve the Lord cross-culturally. And yes, it wasn't easy always. It was people were against it in the beginning. Many of even the church leaders, where I was going to church, they said, "No, you better pray for missionaries, but it's not for you to do this." But I still had this conviction, and then I asked God for a clear sign, and exactly what I was asking Him, this happens, like with Gideon with the fleece, and so I always knew it was God who called me. And this helped me a lot, even when doors were closing and when people were against. Yeah, that's how I came into cross-cultural work. I was working for 9 years in France and in a church planting ministry there, mainly with disabled people and with children. But then I had the feeling, it was coming to an end, and I had the opportunity to study theology in the States and get a Master of Divinity. And then my desire was to serve in a Muslim country. So North Africa was the first choice because I already knew French and I had already met some North Africans in France. So that's a bit how I came to work in North Africa. And it has been 25 years last year.
Wow. Wow.
That is so inspiring, Sabine. We've only just begun, and I'm already just, so moved at the clarity at which you heard the Lord call and your obedience to respond to Him in faith in spite of resistance and opposition, and just how God has led you. You say 25 years, but I imagine so many stories to share that have filled these last 25 years. Thank you.
I visited with you a few times over the years as I've gone back into North Africa, but, what's it been like living, ministering from a wheelchair? I mean, yeah, it's hard for us who are not with such challenges to envision what it actually is like, so be tell us something about what it's like.
Mm. Yeah, it's not always easy. There are some challenges, and but what I really notice over the years, God is guiding me also in providing places that are accessible. And what actually confirmed me coming to the first city I was working in was that there was a language school with downstairs classrooms. So, and finally, I found a living place just across the road from there. So God was always confirming things like this and caring for my special needs. I think this was one of the nice things I always noticed, how God is working through this. I mean, there are some other advantages too, because if it was my disability, I would live here in Germany. I would probably have to live in a nursing home or somewhere. But in on the field and in a country of North Africa, it's easy to find helpers who are willing to stay 24 hours and live, which is another advantage. I had always had the possibility or the privilege to live with the locals because I needed them as my helpers. That was even in language, it was a help because I had to speak Arabic from the beginning because I had to communicate with my helpers.
Wow.
But there are also some difficulties. As I said, I had always have to have helpers, and it's not always easy to find honest helpers. So I also had some problems with that, and people wanting to take advantage of me, or yeah, that also happened. I even had a driver. I finally found out that he was stealing my money. That he had made a double of my keys from the house, and always when I was out of the house, he came and picked some money up. As many people know where I have things because they have to help me to get them, so they can take advantage. But fortunately, at the moment, I have really nice people around, and I don't have any fear of this.
That's beautiful. Hmm.
Wow. Sabine, would you just you just shared a little bit of some of the challenges, but what would you have a story just to illustrate some of the challenges and opportunities that you have experienced?
Well, as I said, the opportunities I have as a disabled person, well, it's first to work with disabled too. I worked
Mm-hmm.
for a long time with an association for disabled. I actually created it to distribute wheelchairs to disabled people in the country.
Wow.
That was an opportunity I had. And the challenges are maybe also that it's difficult for me, for example, to go and visit somebody by myself. I have to take my driver or my helper with me.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, especially when I had helpers who were not believing, it was
Mm.
difficult then to do conversations. I had one, or I still have her, but she became a believer now. So this is one of the great things that I have two of my helpers who came
Mm.
Praise
believers.
God.
At
Wonderful.
the moment, I have a driver who is an African, but who is also a believer and a member of the church. So that helps me a lot. But during the time I had a helper who wasn't a believer yet, it was sometimes difficult. I was trying to share, and she was always in conversations trying to support the person who is a Muslim and to defend her faith. That was sometimes a bit challenging, yeah.
I imagine.
Now it's
Wow.
better because two of them are believers, and yeah, that's her.
Mm.
Sometimes she does it, but not very often.
Wow.
What other stories I could tell? I mean, challenge, as I said, is with people who are not very honest.
Mm.
Yeah, that was always a challenge. But there are many advantages too. I mean, I feel like protected because most of the time I'm not on outside by myself. I'm always with
Mm.
somebody.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
yeah, and usually people like to talk with me what I do in this country and being disabled. And so that
Yeah.
also gives opportunities to talk and to
Mm.
mention that I feel called by God into this work.
Yeah. I'm curious, Sabine, um, just as you've shared just the challenges of dealing with dishonesty and you stayed in this area for 25 years. How have you kept your heart just trusting and soft? What would you say to others who might also find themselves in a situation like this?
I also always try to see the positive aspects in people.
Mm.
Sometimes I catch myself defending people, and if somebody else is criticizing them, and
Mm.
I always had looked at them, saying, "Well, he didn't do good to me, but it's also somebody Jesus loves, and I want to be with."
Mm.
I think one of the most important things is loving people in spite of the things they might do to me.
Mm.
So, I mean, Jesus said, "Love your enemies," and sometimes, yeah, they're not really my enemies, but they are doing to me bad things.
Mm.
So I feel I need to love them anyway,
Mm.
and just pray for them and trust the Lord, He can change them.
Yeah. Imagine you had to remind yourself daily that that's such a good word to to move in love towards people. It's
That's really
beautiful.
what moves me, and what I also my helpers who came to faith, that's what they said, what moved them to finally trust the Lord.
Wow.
Your testimony, that's so good, Sabine. Thank you.
You know, I've had the privilege of visiting you a number of times when you were there. And I remember one visit when your school for handicapped was going the center, right next to the public school, sharing the wall. You had I was there when a bunch of parents came in for a session, and the children were in another room, and you and your team were, I forget if you were talking to the parents or your partner was, but the kids had, they were most of them handicapped in wheelchairs, they
Mm.
Mhm.
different kind of handicaps, and they had such joy on their faces being together and engaging. Um,
Mm.
and even that center was highlighted in the national news more than once. Could you just sort of share maybe a few highlights of just where God was working and it was maybe even astonishing to you what was happening? Some stories of surprising,
Mhm.
some highlights from your life, just whichever is a highlight for you.
Well, actually, I didn't come to the country to do this work. I once I saw on the marketplace there was a man in a very broken, I would say, broken wheelchair. One wheel was missing, and some other things were missing. And he asked me if I could
Mm.
wheelchair for him. And
Mm.
at first I was kind of reluctant, but then I thought about that in my country, lots of wheelchairs are thrown on the
Mm.
trash, and we could bring them and repair them. That might even give somebody a work. So
Mm.
was my that kind of was my call to work with disabled. And
Mm.
schwer beschwer, as we say in my country, little by
Mm.
little, I found some people I trusted at the time to start
Mm.
the association with, and then it grew. Then we started a center. We got some place from the city from the school Don was talking about, who let us use some abandoned classrooms, and I got some donations to renovate them. So it was
Mm.
a great time. It was a great time. Then this might be one of the big disappointments that 14 years after I started, there were some people coming into the association. Most of those who started, they left for different reasons.
Mm.
And they were just looking for getting the money, the support I was getting, but they didn't want me and they didn't want, because I was
Oh.
rigid. I was really wanted the wheelchairs to be given to those who are most in need. And
Mm.
the locals, they rather want to have them for people of influence or for
Mm.
family. And sometimes we
Mm.
didn't get along on this point. And then one time when I was in Germany, they made a general assembly and they voted me out of the board. And
Wow.
then they even changed the locks. And finally,
Wow.
I tried a lot to get back, and we even went to court with it. But finally, I figured out it was a good time, and I had to move on to
Mm.
different activities.
Mm.
And I still have contact with some of the mothers privately. I visit them when I come back to the city. And we also had at
Mm.
the time in 2005 one
Mm.
distribution in the city far south in the desert, and there we worked together with another association. And now I'm living in this city. Actually, in 2005, I already had the impression God was asking me if I was willing to serve Him in this city. But
Mm.
at the time, actually, my organization didn't have any work in that city, and
Mm.
I was not the time. But
Mm.
what is a bit funny, when I came there on 21, I retook a relationship with this association, and I was very well received. And
Mm.
now I still have contact and visiting up with the president of the association.
Mm.
I don't do this very full time now. I help out in the association maybe once or twice a week with some teaching for
Mhm.
the children. But I don't want to get into leadership anymore more there, because I
Mm.
made those experiences that the locals, they don't like it too much to have foreigners in leadership.
Mm.
And I rather be just helping out and be a guest, but I don't want to have to do anything with the leadership and looking for money and how money is distributed and all those things.
Mm.
Mm. I do remember visiting when you had been locked out, and you showed me some of the papers that they gave you to say that you're no longer, the whole thing you'd built up, they
Mm.
pushed you away. I mean, you said you realized you had to move on, but is there anything more that how God helped you at that time, or friends, or how did you get through it? I mean, that's I could see someone getting very bitter over something like that, but I don't think you're bitter.
Mm.
No, I mean, it wasn't easy especially at first,
Mm.
because I put so much of my energy into it. But then I
Mm.
also realized it was taking up so much of my energy
Hmm.
that I
Mm.
couldn't do much of real ministry I actually wanted to do in the country.
Mm.
So when this happened, I concentrated myself more on working in this French-speaking international church where I got involved in with many Africans and wanted to help them loving also the locals, because at the
Mm.
time there was still quite of racism in the country, and
Mm.
some of the Africans, they just thought, we'll just get my studies done and then either get to Europe or get back home. But I don't like this country. I just want to spend
Mm.
the time I need to. But this was one thing I really had on the heart from that time on, just to make the country, make them love the country.
Mm.
There I
Mm.
have seen a much of a change. Now, even in the
Wow.
church, people are praying for the locals and people are trying to reach out. And there are also
Mm.
locals coming to the church just by curiosity. There's one story I don't forget. There was a man, a local, coming into the church, and then he gave us a letter to the pastor. And at the time, we didn't have a pastor, but there was a pastoral assistant, and we opened it together. And then he was asking for a Bible and a cross, a wooden cross.
Mm.
And
Wow.
we then tried to talk to him and said, yeah, I can get you a Bible. You can come back next week and I can get you one. But for the cross, you might not need it really.
Mm.
But when I gave him the Bible the week after, he he, uh, he took it on his heart, and it was so cute, so touching to see
Mm.
take this Bible and being so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a few weeks later, actually, he got baptized, and now
Mm.
he's there are ups and downs, but he's attending a local group.
Mm.
One of the things also happened, it was mainly after Corona, that all of the locals in the city, they didn't meet anymore, many of the foreigners. So the groups were not really functioning, and I used the occasion to en call some and encourage them and just get something started in my house, what I had never done before. But the group is still
Mm.
meeting in my house, even if I'm not there most of the time. So that was an
Mm.
encouraging thing too.
That's very encouraging. Wow. Sabine, would you just share just a few lessons that you've learned in your years of service, things that God has shown you and taught you?
Yeah, some things maybe not trust locals too easily.
Mm.
Even if somebody says he is a believer, I had to learn that some people, they might even confess faith, but they just do it for some advantages. They have
Mm.
something behind in their mind, so not to trust too easily, to prove them before giving them responsibility or before sharing too much with them.
Mm.
And then something I'm still kind of learning on it is how to deal with money matters. This is a
Mm.
difficult thing. There are so many needs. There's
Mm. Yeah.
and the Africans, and sometimes you want to help, and sometimes you realize helping you don't really help. That's
Mm.
I'm still learning on to know what to do in these cases. They always see me as a European. The European have money, so
Yeah.
we have to get out of her what we can.
Mm.
That's a thing that is a bit difficult, and I'm still
Mm.
learning on it. Yeah,
Mm. Thank you, Sabine. That sounds like just growing in discernment,
yeah,
discerning
yeah,
people's hearts, which only the Holy Spirit can lead you and
Mhm.
has led you, and also discerning how to steward the resources that you
Yeah,
have in the face of so much need. Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
If I could
making
ask,
right
yeah.
priorities. I also still have to learn on, yeah, how to find the right balance between rest and work. This might be another challenge as a disabled. Just living takes so much more time
Yeah, I imagine.
else, and then I realize I can't do all the things I want to do.
Mm,
Maybe I have to learn to go a bit lower and say I can't do everything that other people are doing.
mm.
It's difficult to learn.
Thank you, Sabine.
I'm just curious. Maybe it's a misleading question, but I feel like because of the challenges you've lived with all these years, that you may have some insights into ministry that those of us who are maybe able-bodied don't quite get. Is
Mm,
there any thoughts you've thought as you interact with maybe younger workers or colleagues that, yeah, if only they understood this, they would do better?
mm,
Any insights that you feel like God's taught you because of who you are?
Well, maybe just being patient, not expecting
mm,
too much.
mm,
Because it's true, we all want to see many fruit, and we want to see
mm,
people coming to Christ. But in the Muslim world, it's not always like this. People are
mm,
not coming to Christ in masses, and not being too quickly to say people to ask people to accept Christ in their lives, because they need
mm,
to learn a lot before. I don't want them, or we don't want them to just confess Christ to do a pleasure to us, but they
mm.
understand what they are really doing.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I can't say that I led many people to Christ. It's often there are many things coming into their lives that are
Mhm.
leading finally to the decision.
Mm,
Maybe just being patient, that's what I would. And serve the Lord and asking each time the Lord, what should I do? How can I serve
mm,
me here? So now you have to show me what I'm doing in this place and
mm,
the right people on my way.
mm,
I don't know if I have many things that are different because I'm in a wheelchair.
mm,
Just being led by the Lord and doing what,
mm,
and as I said
mm.
before, showing people love. All is about relationship. Ships.
Yeah,
I'm not so convinced of many programs and strategies. I'm more into relationships.
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
That's so good. Mm. I'm I think Don was in a very kind way saying, "What advice do you have for younger people stepping out into cross-cultural ministry?" This is your chance, Sabine. What advice would you give to those that are just beginning this cross-cultural journey?
I would tell people take enough time to get to learn the language and to get to learn the culture. The mistake I made when I met this man and I started the wheelchair work is I wasn't very fluent in language and I should have taken more time for language. But I always, when you get in a new country or so, you want to do lots of things. But it would have been better if I had taken more time to study even the written language Fusha, because afterwards you don't find the time.
That's
I
right.
would say
Yeah.
take the time to prepare
Mm,
even before you come to the country. I mean, I already had French, but I advise people to learn French so they can communicate, or learn
Mm.
Spanish in the South. Spanish might be better. But
Mm.
to have already a language that is spoken in the country, or the paperwork is in two languages, in French and Arabic, so you can get around. But if you don't have any of these
Mm.
languages, it's
Yeah.
difficult to get started.
That sounds like putting down deep roots, which takes perseverance. Language is hard and culture is hard to understand.
Yeah, but it's worth it. It's
Yeah,
worth
that's a good
learning
word.
because then you can communicate, you can read with people.
Yeah, that's so good.
It's interesting that you came to North Africa functionally fluent in French after spending all those years in France, and in this latter, I don't know how long it's been, 5 years or more, you increasingly focus on um, French speaking Africans and helping them love the local situation.
Yeah.
Um, can you just tell us a bit about how that pilgrimage has come about and what you're doing now? Because you told me before we started this session that you're really working with a local French church. You helped plant a local expatriate church, um, which is not what you were envisioning doing when you first came. So how did that all come about?
Well, in the city where I was working first, there was an English speaking and a French speaking church. I first went to the English speaking church, but then because the French wasn't very organized, and yeah, they were mostly Africans. But then there was an African medical doctor who became the pastor, who took 2 years of his life, of his ministry, to work as a pastor and to build up the church. And pretty soon I got him into the association. And then I also felt, well, why are we just among all kind of workers who try to fellowship among each other? It would be better to go to a church where I can use my gifts, and so it was mainly with him that I got into the church. But yeah, then I loved it, and yeah, it has been. When did he come? On 2000, so it has also been 24 years. I'm the French speaking church, and then in 2021, I felt the church is very much independent, and there are a lot of people who can take responsibility. So I was preaching, I was on the church board, but there were people who could do the same thing. And I also, the climate in the city was very difficult for me because it was very hot in the summer and very cold in the winter. And I don't support, or I don't stand cold weather very, very well. So I was looking for a different place to serve, because I thought, well, if I don't do it now, I will never do it. I was looking into coastal cities, and one of my objectives was to go somewhere where the French church isn't established yet. So, and then, yeah, I visited several churches, several places, but then coming to the south, to the desert, I just felt this might be the place. There were lots of Africans in the city, mainly migrants,
Mm.
but this was an opportunity. I talked to the Catholic priest in this city, and he told me there are about 15,000 Africans in the city.
Wow.
So, yeah, we didn't know how to get to meet them, what to do, but it was one of the things that helped me to decide going to the city. And then actually what happened, the same year, we moved in August, and in October, the first African students came to that city.
Wow.
And many of them were already Christians. There was one guy, a very young man, but he was a pastor's son from Africa, from Congo. And he was a good pianist, and he was very excited starting something. They helped, and then within a couple of months, we started our first church service. And I also had a local family moving down with me. Well, this is sometimes a challenge, but also from the beginning, we kind of, sorry, we kind of mixed locals and Africans. I also try to get in contact with some local believers, but haven't really figured it out how to get them to meet together. But I'm also on the board of the national French church, so this also helped me to get residency and to have a reason to be there. I'm working with a church. Everybody expects this, and they got the church papers within the in when I deposed for my residency. I also handed in the church papers. So even if I'm there officially as a retired, I still had to have a reason why I want to be there.
So to me, this story is fascinating. How God is at work in the global church. These migrants fleeing, trying to get into Europe and escaping poverty, and they're stuck in a little desert city in the south of North Africa. And here, someone from Germany who knows French is helping them start a church and strengthen themselves in faith. It's just a fascinating interchange of different parts of the global church. Yeah, it's exciting.
Even I didn't expect it, but I noticed that it's kind of curious, but there are a lot of young Africans coming to faith in the country. And every year we have several baptisms. There was one guy who was from the first time with us, and he wasn't really clear. He said, "My mother is Catholic, and my father, he's a Protestant, but he doesn't go anywhere." And then he came to faith, and he changed completely, and very active now, and got baptized there. And then another vision I have for this is to get a global world to work for, to reach out to those who are lost. I have a young couple living in the same house, and they become also members of my organization. A couple from Ivory Coast. So this is kind of the first fruit in this sense, to say they are now excited of working for the Lord, and they also help with the church. And yeah, and sometimes it's not easy. They don't get the support they always need. You have to help out. But I'm so happy if I see there are Africans who want to be workers among the Muslims of the country. And I think this is a great thing, and there's so much potential because they just have to find a job or open their little business, and they can get rest. There are so many Africans, so there's no problem for them to live there. And those who are students, they are sitting on the same benches with the local students, so they also have possibilities to reach out.
What an encouraging story. Sabine, we've heard you share just how the Lord first called you, and heard you say, be patient and go deep, grow in discernment. We've heard you also say it doesn't end up looking the way you thought. And
No.
sometimes things close or
Mhm.
they shut down, but I hear you say, keep trusting the Lord and go where He is leading. And I've just been so encouraged in our short time together. I have one last question for you, and I'm just so curious, Sabine, who, besides Jesus from His Word in John, who inspired you in the beginning and has inspired you along the way?
I think I was very much inspired from biographies I read,
Mm,
from especially like Hudson Taylor or Amy
mm,
Michael or Lilia Strutter, who came into
mm,
North Africa. He came into North Africa, and she
mm.
started by herself and just with a few friends,
Yeah,
just seeing how God was working through people, and
yeah.
just is encouraging me to see He can also work through me. And while I always had the vision, I
Mm.
wanted to write my own biography, but I don't know if I will ever do it or find somebody who will do it for me. But
Mm.
um, I think I was encouraged by other people's examples, being real
That's
people
so
or
good.
being people in books.
The testimony of others.
Yeah.
And your life is inspiring. So please write your biography, Sabine, for a next generation.
I think
Yeah.
I know someone who might be interested in helping you write it. She likes to help people write. So we'll
Mm.
talk some more afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah. Any just final thoughts or reflections as you look back at God's grace and His guidance over these 25 years in North Africa? And um, I mean, I remember you took one of our courses, and you studied the Quran with us and went all the way to Bahrain to do to UAE to do a. You're constantly learning and growing. Um, I'm just very inspired by you. Any final thoughts for us?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to take more time to learn things, to grow, and also to
Mm.
implement what I learned. It's good to take a
Mm.
course, but then it's not just for taking the course, but for applying it afterwards to the work.
Mm.
Yeah, and thanks for inviting me. Thanks for giving me the occasion to share with you what I went through in my life. And yeah, I would
Mm.
encourage other disabled people too to just go ahead.
Mm.
There are ways to do it. And don't let yourself discouraged by people who say, "Oh, it's too difficult. Oh, we can't
Mm.
help you. We are afraid it would be too difficult for us." I mean, I always try to organize myself and to find ways to how I can find my helpers. I didn't expect this from my colleagues, but I try to find the possibilities myself, to find the housings by myself. But I'm willing to help also if somebody needs help. But you shouldn't
Mm.
be too dependent on others. Otherwise, you might become a burden for somebody else. So I
Mm.
think if somebody is disabled, it's possible. And but you don't have to expect other people's organizing it for you. You have to see on the
Mm.
where you can live and how you can do it, and
Mm.
then it's working.
Well, thank you so much for this visit. It's been a joy to hear about what's going on. I look forward to maybe next time I'm back in that part of the world, maybe making that trip down to that part of the country
Yeah,
that I've never been to. I'd love to see you there.
right down south.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sabine. It was
You're
lovely to meet
welcome.
you.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Reflexio podcast. Make sure to rate and review us on your favorite podcasting platform.
You can subscribe to our newsletter, join the discussion on YouTube, and find further information about this episode in the show notes below. See you next time.